Aya.
Aya Horns. Where was that from?
I don't know.
Do you remember that though? Like when everyone used to
Aya.
go Aya Horn. Aya Horn.
I think it's just generic.
Maybe it's like, I don't know, Love Island.
Anyway, hello everyone.
Hi guys.
How are we doing?
How are we all doing on this fine Friday? It will be morning.
Yes.
Well, actually, you might.
It's
be
actually
listening
Friday
to it
today as well while we're recording. So,
but obviously they could be listening on any day of the week.
They
couldn't
could.
So happy day.
The real fans would be listening on Friday as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, if you're an OG.
We've got some news hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Go on.
Guys, we have I have purchased some tickets this morning for a concert.
To one of our all-time favourite artists.
We are going to see Georgia Smith.
Yeah, it's the little things that get me high. Woo, woo.
We're very excited.
You come with? Yeah, who listens to Georgia? Maybe there's some Georgia fans out there.
Yeah. It was mildly stressful. I'd set an alarm.
You didn't seem stressed.
No, I'd set an alarm, 9:55, because tickets went on sale at 10. 10 o'clock strikes. I'm literally watching the countdown. 30 seconds to go. Boom, in. It was like, you can have 2 tickets. And I was like, I don't know if I want to get more than that. So I got these 2 tickets, went through. And then I was like, I might try and go back and change it from 2 to 4. Go back. Suddenly it's like, there's no tickets. And I was like, no. Because I literally had 2 there.
I got 2 ahead of myself.
So then I can just like refresh. And finally it came up again. I guess that's where people will have tickets and then they'll like time it out and then
do
they'll
the
go
same
back.
thing.
So thankfully
2 tickets are secured.
2 tickets
in the bag.
have been secured.
We're seeing Mahalia as well. So
that's in a couple of weeks.
We are basically, Sophie and I had this concert era whilst we were at uni. Where there was like this term where we just somehow managed to see
like 5 or 6 people in like
loads
a year.
of just like our favourite artists, and it was so cool. And then I think since
one of them
then,
was Georgia.
Yeah. And I saw Mahalia, but
Tom Misch.
Who
else was in there? I
saw the 1975.
I think I saw like Anderson .Paak. Yeah. There was loads.
You saw Neo.
Oh, Neo, yeah.
I was going to say Neo.
Neo, turn the lights up in this place.
But we love a concert. And then obviously COVID happened. And now we're getting to go and see 2 of our favourite artists.
Yes.
And they're both playing in Birmingham.
2 power women.
Pretty small venues. What's Georgia?
Yeah, O2.
Oh, yeah. Nice and intimate, just how we like
just me and George.
And we can't wait.
Yes, so that's the news, the big news for the morning.
Oh, what a time.
Yes.
What a time to be alive.
It's just good to have these things as well in your calendar to look forward to. You know, you're like, what's happening in the middle of November? Georgia Smith. That's what's happening.
Baby.
So yeah.
But today, guys, we're taking, how would you describe this topic?
Could be a bit sad.
Could be a bit sad, but also...
Don't you worry there, guys. We will be adding a lighthearted twist to...
Yes. Okay. So this week's podcast episode is titled, It's Not Just You Who Sometimes Feels Lonely. I'm so low. It's like match my pitch.
I'm so low. Bit of Justin Bieber there, if anyone got that reference.
And like we've done in a few previous episodes, I'm just going to kick this one off by saying, if you're out there and you do sometimes feel lonely, we can, for a certified fact, clarify it's not just you. Because again, when we put out our question box, numerous people sent this in. So let's just start on that note. If you're there like, I feel lonely and it might just be me, it's not.
It's got the it's not just you.
I'll say
stamp of approval.
It's
not
just
you. Thank you and good night. No, this episode has well and truly got the stamp of approval.
Yeah,
100% certified.
From the It's Not Just You podcast listeners.
Yes.
Thank you guys. So yeah, we're going to chat about loneliness today.
We are.
Very real emotion, something I'd say we've both experienced in different ways.
Yeah. Do you want to kick us off with a story?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick us off with a story of the first time I would say I felt real loneliness in the way of actually just physically feeling alone. Because like when we've been chatting about this topic, we feel like there's different ways loneliness can, what's the word? Manifest itself. But for me, the first time I ever just felt real, like sharp, almost like painful loneliness was when I went to uni. And I've touched on this a bit, I think, in previous episodes, but
give us the full story.
I just essentially wasn't used to being around people or living in an area with people that I didn't know. And I think for me, I have always generally been someone who just really cares about my friends and has always like, I don't know, just had quite a community in terms of like reaching out to friends, doing life with friends, being in quite constant communication, like hanging out, kind of doing my life with friends as opposed to like anything else. And when I went, so obviously like at school, I had the same friends for like 7 years, absolutely loved them. And when I came to uni, it was like the first time that was like, oh my goodness, I'm not with any of my friends and I'm not with my family and I'm with no one that I know.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've been to uni, you just know the feeling. Like even recently, Soph and I actually walked around a university campus, like,
well, why are you saying it like
our university campus.
Unspecified.
No, the Uni of Birmingham, where we both went. And we went back to the first year accommodation, like Vale, because it's a nice area to walk around. And it was literally moving day.
Yeah.
And there were all these freshers. Like wheeling their suitcases and like their parents moving them in, and honestly I found it quite triggering.
Honestly though, we were
transported back.
We were getting a coffee. They just have like a Starbucks on the accommodation. We were just getting a Starbucks and we were like in there looking at all these groups of essentially people that must have moved in maximum one day ago, sat round like little threes and fours, and you're just looking at them chatting and you're like, you've known each other for a few hours.
Yeah.
But then
it's the body language, like, like kind of looking scared, closed, like folded arms, just like, and
but
you're
then
like, oh.
We were just transported back though. So I have this real clear, vivid memory. The very, very first day that I moved into uni, my flat, all of us went to the pub that's on that accommodation. It's called the Duck and Scholar, if anyone knows and has been to Birmingham Uni. So we go there, we're sat there, there's maybe like 7 or 8 of us because there was like my flat and the flat next door, we went together. And it's low-key just awkward, kind of, just the classic like getting to know you conversations. And I remember looking around, scanning the room at these other groups like, oh my gosh, like they've clearly known each other for way long. Like they're basically
laughing, joking,
just completely forget that, no, they met today as well. And you would just have this outward perspective of like, they're best mates. Yeah. They're actually best mates.
What's wrong with our flat?
And I'm sat here feeling like I don't know what question to ask next.
Yeah.
And they're like just hitting
the bank of questions in your head. Like, okay, siblings, right, done that. Colours.
Any pets? Any pets?
No. Yeah.
So like what A levels did you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I did biology too. How did you find it? What exam board were you?
I know, and it was just so intense. But I think, for me, I remember just moving into the flat, and because as well I'm close to my family, I always knew it was going to be hard when they drove away. Like just the classic, like you're sat on your bed, like, bye mum, bye dad, and
you feel like you're in a movie.
Yeah, and I remember like, I was chatting with my flatmates, that was all fine, but I think it was every single time I went into my room and just shut the door, I just sat there like, oh my gosh. And for me, it was particularly bad in the mornings. Like I would wake up, because in the evenings, there's obviously these freshers events. Yeah. You go out, again, it's really weird when you actually deep it. Like you're going on these nights out with people that you don't know.
No.
Like when else is that ever a thing? And obviously you get to know them, but you don't know them on those first few days. And I would just wake up in the morning and genuinely just feel so like out of my comfort zone, alone. I was like, I don't know these people. Like I can't go into their room and be like, oh, because I don't know, it just wasn't really that vibe. And I just remember this really, really sad.
Oh no.
No, I would literally just like cry in the shower.
Oh no.
Like every morning for the whole of freshers, because I just felt so alone. I was like, I just don't feel like known by these people. Obviously not. They don't know me.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
And because, like I say, I'm someone that so loves my friends and being able to like do life, I'm just like, oh, I just want to go home. Like I literally just want to go home, be with my family, where people like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and honestly, guys, that was, I'd never experienced anything like that before. Like I'd never felt loneliness like that. I'd never, and it was just such a like painful emotion, like where you're just crying.
But it is also exhausting because you can't be at that point 100% yourself, because you're still kind of working everything out.
Yeah.
Who am I actually going to
Yeah.
end up being friends with? And
Yeah, like,
you
are
know,
these even my people?
I don't
And-
know who you are, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to just give you all my
Yeah.
information on day dot. So then you kind of have to, and this is the weird thing. It's like normally you might go into a environment like that. Let's say you started a new job where it's like, oh, I don't know anyone, but then you could come home to people that you
Yeah.
know and relax and be
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Whereas your home is
Everything's
suddenly
new.
where there's loads of people that you also don't know. So you've had a whole day of like doing your course, going to these clubs, whatever, meeting new people, and then you think, oh, then I have to go home to my flatmates and I don't really know them either.
And I also just think freshers as a unique situation is incredibly hyped up.
Yeah.
You have massive expectations. And even just the thing, if you start comparing. So again, I found social media hard in that time because I knew I'm not having a great time. Like if I'm honest, I didn't enjoy freshers. That's not like some people love it, some people don't. Like, you know, a lot of people do love freshers. I personally didn't. But
Yeah.
all you see online is obviously people like posting, like absolutely loving.
My flat family.
No, literally captions like the like stars have aligned that I got like placed with these people in my flat. Like I could not have wished for better flatmates. And it's like 2 days into uni. It's
But
like,
it would just be like,
let's all calm down.
it would be like, like flat family movie night, and we've all brought our mattresses out of our rooms and put them in the kitchen, and now we're watching a film, and
We all bought individual snacks and combined them on our mattresses. I mean, I just sound salty. Like the reality is, obviously, that would have
'cause it's
been
just
lovely.
funny,
but
because I think even the people that posted that, like I loved my flat and I got on with them really well, but even like as someone looking back, you are just there like,
I didn't know them.
even for all the pictures that I've posted
Yeah.
and all the things that you say, and I love them and loads of them I'm still friends with now, but at that time, would I have actually been like, we are so close? No, because I've known you for 2
it's
weeks.
just the pressure of like trying to look as well like you are, and that like you're thriving and it's the best uni experience ever. Like, and the reality is I really got on with the people in my flat, but as uni went on, my closest friends, well, even like Soph wasn't in my flat. They didn't end up being my flatmates, but like obviously in the freshers, they're the only people you know. And yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, for me, that was just definitely like a marking period of my life where I hadn't felt, you know, I remember literally thinking like, wow, this is like what it feels to even just live alone or be alone if you're struggling with loneliness,
Yeah.
where you're just like longing for someone to like, okay, too far. But like, I don't know.
Did you do the trick where you kept your door open?
No,
That's probably
'cause
why then, mate.
but no one in my flat did that. That was half
You should
the
have
issue.
set the tone.
Well, yeah, because I would have been that person that's like, let's all pile into one room and like have a big chat, but it wasn't the vibe.
You could have made it.
I don't think
Anyway.
I could. Anyway, so that for me, guys, was an experience of feeling alone. So if you are genuinely in freshers right now, or at uni, or just you've moved to a new city, you're in a new job, and you feel alone, and you're adjusting to getting to know people, just know that is actually normal. And as
Yeah.
much as people hype up like new season, new chapter, oh my goodness, like new era of life, change and moving somewhere else is very hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not an easy thing for
No.
everyone. So. But yeah, I don't know. It was a rough time. Those tears in the shower. But what about you?
I mean, I think when I think of this topic, more what comes to mind for me is moments in life where I just feel lonely. So, and not necessarily because of circumstances or change or being around different people, but more just days where I'll kind of just be questioning, who are my friends, or yeah, I have friends, but do they actually know me?
Yeah.
Or, you know, if I didn't text a friend, would they text me?
Yeah.
Would they arrange to meet up if I didn't
Yeah.
instigate it? And in my kind of rational brain, I can think, well, you know, I can reach out to them and you know, if I suggested hanging out, I know they probably would say yes, or if they said no because they have a legit reason. But you know, those days where you're just like, oh, I kind of just would love it if someone out of the blue texts me and went, oh, so I've been thinking of you. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Unprompted, uninstigated, not because you've done something to make them do that, but just because they're like, oh, I see you and I want to be your friend. So I think for me, and that's something that I have struggled with, or like will still struggle with now, but in the past where I guess, it's just those moments of feeling, even though I have friends and I'm in a community and there's people around me that I know care about me and know me, but you can just still feel lonely in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, because I do think they're essentially, like we were saying at the start, just different manifestations or whatever of loneliness where you can have what I'm describing that's like, well, I'm physically alone, as in I'm in a room on my own and I don't know anyone. But you also have the flip side, which is what you're describing, where it's like, no, you do know people, you are in a community, you know rationally that you have friends, but in those moments still feeling alone.
Yeah. And it's just slightly more tricky, isn't it? Because sometimes you can then go into questioning, well, why do I feel lonely when I can actually, you know, if I sat down and wrote out a list of people that I know are my friends, or if I really thought about it, there are people that I know care about me, but sometimes you can't shake that feeling of I feel lonely though.
Yeah.
So even on a very practical kind of factual basis, you can be like, these are people I know, these are people that I have journeyed with. It's like, but I feel lonely and I can't really necessarily massively pinpoint why or, you know, give this big argument as to how I've got to this place, but more just that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
And I think as well, we were chatting earlier, weren't we, about even as well, another way that loneliness can kind of present itself is, or you can feel it is, I feel lonely in the stuff that I'm going through.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling with a particular thing or thought or just something that you're experiencing and you just feel like, oh, no one really gets it. No one really gets how I'm feeling. And even though there's people that are like, oh, I'm here for you and, oh, you know, message me whenever you need me. Sometimes you're like, oh, but I just feel quite alone in this thing, like in this thing that I'm currently facing.
Yeah. Because there's nothing like speaking through a problem or something that you're struggling with someone who has experienced the exact same thing. Like there is just a relatability that comes with it. Yeah, that hits different.
Yeah.
But it does. Where, you know, even like the exact specific thing that you might be struggling with or a specific situation, and then you find someone that has gone through that exact same thing, you essentially feel seen and like known in it and can relate. And I think it's that those combination of feelings that go against loneliness. Like it's when you feel completely seen, completely known, and can completely relate to someone else, and you connect on like that human, like deep level, and you're like, it's quite hard to feel lonely if that's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's also where sometimes with being single, like unless you have incredibly close friends where you do have that depth of connection that you might have with like a partner, that can also contribute to feeling lonely.
But I would say kind of even with that, even if you had an incredibly close friend that really you shared everything with, I still just think that because when you're in a relationship with someone, married to someone, whatever, you have made a commitment to that person is almost like I'm putting you above everyone else, really. Like that is essentially what you're saying. So even if you've got a really close friend, like let's say me and you, I can't really have I can have an expectation that I know Rach is always going to be there for me, but even within that, it's not to the same extent as
we're married.
Yeah. E.g., like, let's say you're, out with another friend. I wouldn't necessarily have the expectation, like, cancel that and come here now. I mean, there's like extreme circumstances where I know that you might do that.
Yeah.
But if it's like, just because I want to chat.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Can you just wait till I'm...
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that it's a bit different, isn't it? Where it's like, if you're in a relationship or married to someone, you should hopefully have the confidence and assurance that this person is for me and I'm for them, rather than, we're really close and this person is for me, but they're also for that person in that friendship and that person in that friendship.
Yeah. So then would you say being single, that does bring an element of loneliness in like certain situations?
I would say so,
yeah. I mean, I feel like most people, especially if you do desire or have desired to like be with someone.
Yeah.
But even if you haven't, I still think like sometimes there's just the like...
But that's it. It's like...
natural
it's just the
longing for a partner.
fact. I think it's just like the fact of the matter is you don't have that other person. So even if you're not there like, I'm desperate to be in a relationship, I really, really want it, I still think it is just kind of a factor of I don't have that person that I know is kind of just set aside for me.
Yes, yeah. And therefore can feel lonely in that.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with this whole topic, like you said earlier, I'd say the real reason for feeling lonely is because you don't feel seen, known, valued by the people around you.
Yeah, and it could just be the tiniest of things, like just the whole concept of feeling known. It's when people remember like specific details or just know you or like know what, I don't know, food order you would want or what kind of thing would like make your day. Or like, I was just thinking like even we went for dinner yesterday. This is so weird. But you, like we're talking about celebrities and you said something like, oh yeah, like I knew something about a celeb, but you were like, oh, Rach wouldn't usually know kind of stuff about celebrities. And I was like, I don't know why, I was just thinking about it then, like, oh, I actually feel so known. No, but you know when it's just like the simplest of things of like, I know myself and I know I don't know anything about celebrities and that kind of culture.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, just in that moment, you being like, oh yeah, no, Rach, like, I was like, oh, like, I wouldn't have known that you'd know that.
But that's it. It's kind of, I think, just the small, tiny things that can just show
like,
where...
Do you want like a G&T, like, or like you'd want like an elderflower G&T? It's like, yeah, I would. Like, oh, you know me.
Yeah. Just, or even just you go to someone's house and they're like, oh, I bought this thing in particularly.
Yeah.
You know, I bought this particular thing for pudding because I knew that that's what you'd want. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, and
like,
it's just those tiniest of things that add up to then feeling like this person really does know me and sees me and listens to me. And that's what I think, goes against then the feeling of loneliness.
Yeah, or like, you know, you've told them something about something that's going on with a family member or something, or a friendship, and you know, a few months later they're like, oh, how is that thing with...
You're like,
so-and-so?
whoa, you
You're
remembered.
like, oh, I barely even remembered that happened.
Yeah.
But
just as a side note, I think even just knowing how impactful that can be makes me want to be like that as a friend.
100%.
In terms of like, actually, when my friends do tell me that they like this or they don't like that or they've got this thing coming up, how can I be someone that thinks, oh, I'm going to make a note of that or like remember that and then intentionally ask them because that's what's going to help them to feel known.
Yeah.
It's just like a really beaut thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when we were then thinking about, okay, how can we, you know, maybe not feel lonely, or essentially how would we tie up this episode with our thoughts? And I think a massive thing is just that stuff takes time to know
to build
about
that
a friend.
Relationship. Yeah.
So like me knowing that about you, like random example that Rach doesn't know about celebrity culture, that's because I've been friends with you for like 6-7 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I wouldn't know that from hanging out with you 3 times.
Yeah. And there is just a reality of the depth of friendship that can, you know, make you feel seen and known, takes a while to build up. Doesn't just, my first day of freshers, why on earth would anyone know that about me? Like,
yeah. So I think that was like an initial thought from us where, if you are in a situation where you're meeting new people, like you say, when you move to uni, that's a kind of classic example of that. But I think sometimes it is just trusting that over time, even if I feel lonely now, friendships will grow, build.
Yeah.
It's not going to be forever. I just have to trust that, you know, as we spend time together, as we're around each other more, I will feel less lonely and I will feel more seen by you because you'll know more stuff about me.
And I think on that, even though it feels really difficult in those moments of feeling lonely, the way that you build that depth of connection with people is to reach out. And even like Soph was saying earlier, sometimes again you feel lonely because you're constantly initiating and the other person isn't, or you don't feel like, you know, you feel like you have to reach out to people, and if you don't, then you just won't hang out, and that can actually feel quite lonely. But the reality is, when you're getting to know people and you are in those phases of feeling lonely, you have to like push through that emotion and that insecurity and think, but above all else, I know that connecting with people is going to help me and pull me out of this hole of feeling lonely. So even though it just feels so annoying and you almost just feel like despairing that you're having to reach out, you have to push through and actually activate, because otherwise it's like no one knows you're feeling like that. If in that moment people aren't reaching out to you, they're probably not going to. So it's like you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And I think even it's quite common, I just think, in us as humans, that when we feel something, we almost want to like prove that thing right. So it's like, I feel lonely, so I'm going to remove myself from
and look,
every situation. Like, even if I am invited to something, I'm not going to turn up because...
And see if anyone cares.
Yeah, look,
notice? They didn't invite me anyway. Or like they didn't reach out. Like,
it's like I didn't come and then no one sent a follow-up text to say, oh, where are you? See. And it's like, you've been invited. Do you know what I mean? And you become so like wrapped up in it that you actually can't even see. No, they've invited you to come and then you've not come, and then you're getting salty about.
Or even if they didn't invite you, doesn't mean they don't like you. Like you might have had a special time with them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
but I think it's just where as humans we can be quite, well, I feel this, so I'm gonna prove that feeling right. It's similar when you feel insecure. You almost look to everything around you that validates and proves that, yes, this insecurity I have is correct. And it's not something that I've, you know, made up, or it's not something that's a lie, it's the truth. And so,
it's like, why do we do that? It's just weird.
I know. I think it's almost just for a sense of like, I was right about this. And it is harder to push through, I think. I think in some ways it's easier to retreat as opposed to fight back and push through those feelings. And then something else I'd just add as well is like when you are in these situations where maybe it's newer friendships, or you're building, or you still are getting to that point of feeling really seen by a person, or it's those early stages, or even not early stages, but I would just say offering vulnerability and being vulnerable is really a way that you can feel less lonely. Like, people aren't mind readers. If you're sat there like, oh, I wish they'd ask me about this because that would really help me, or oh, I wish they just knew about this part of my life. It's like, well, in an ideal world, yes, they would ask you, oh, tell me about your life history, like, and you could. But I think sometimes it's about you offering up that information and just being like, they can't read my mind. They don't know that I want to speak about this, or that I'm wanting advice in this area, so I'm just gonna.
And also I think sometimes even just being vulnerable about feeling lonely, like if you are there and you do have friends and there's people that you could reach out to, like, why not just say like, oh yeah, I've been feeling a bit lonely. Like, I think sometimes it feels embarrassing to say you're lonely. Again, it's one of those weird emotions, like almost like jealousy, where it feels a bit embarrassing, but I don't know why when so many people feel it. But even just saying like, oh guys, not gonna lie, I've been feeling a bit lonely lately, and getting it out there and letting them know that's how you're feeling, like why not? Like, I have friends that do that the whole time.
But I guarantee 9 times out of 10, if you say that, the person that you're saying it to, if they are someone that you somewhat trust, will be almost just devastated that you feel like that. They're not going to be like, lol, why? They'll be like, oh my gosh,
lol, you weirdo.
I'm so sorry. I think half the time as well, people are so absorbed in their own life that they wouldn't even clock that, oh yeah, I've not seen so-and-so in a while, or oh, I've not reached out. Like,
self-absorbed.
But I think as soon as you say these things, it's like, oh my gosh, I hate that you feel like that way. How can we do something to help you not feel like that?
100p.
100%, man.
100p. Guys, if you're feeling lonely, it's not just you. And I hope this episode helped in some little way. We've all been there crying in the shower. Where's the weirdest place you've cried? I would actually probably say like this.
No, the shower's very
but I don't do it a lot. Oh, really?
Yeah, loads of people cry in the shower.
Oh.
Because it's like the water's just merging
it's like
together. Yeah, it's very dramatic. Where's the weirdest place I've cried? I can't think of really a weird place that I've cried. It's always quite weird crying in the street, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you just see people walking past you like...
I once was crying on a plane. That was quite weird. Yeah, like any kind of public like transport or like
I've cried on the train before. You're just like...
I was crying so much at the book I was reading, I think.
Oh, really? What, on the plane?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
Side note.
Anyway, guys. Yeah.
Call it a day there.
We'll call it a day. Hope you enjoyed.
Yes.
And we'll see you in our next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Guten Tag.